والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. I began the lecture before. We had one lecture talking about how to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we talk about, and I mentioned loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because in a way they're both kind of the same thing. Getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and earning Allah's love is similar. In fact, the hadith I mentioned, but let me remind you before I want to get into the specific topic, which is a beautiful talk I want to talk about today, which is dua. Because dua is a means of getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now that we're in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, we want to benefit the most from our dua and make sure that we can do everything we can, that Allah is answering it, and understand what are the etiquettes of dua and so on and so forth. First of all, dua, the amazing importance of dua in general is that look at what dua did to the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you look at the role of dua in the ummah of this nation, you'll find an amazing thing. One is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the Quran. And this is an authentic hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah," that dua, it is worship itself. Then he read the verse from the Quran where Allah says, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبَ لَكُمْ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِي سَيَدْخُلُونَ جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. That your Lord says, call upon me, make dua to me, I will astajib lakum. This is what you call, the fi'l is jawab al-shart. Means if you call upon me, I will answer your call. For indeed, those who are too proud for my ibadah, which is what the Prophet ﷺ is talking about, ibadah here meaning dua, then they will enter into Jahannam in disgrace. So, the importance of dua. Here, the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ, the scholars say never before in the Ummah before, or any other nation, did Allah say, all you do is simply ask, call upon me, I will answer your call. Ud'uni astajib lakum, I will answer your call. However, the verse talking about answering the dua in Ramadan is more special. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I mentioned this in the previous lecture, uses a different verb. When you look at the ayat of Ramadan, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ, then the next verses that follow, Allah says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِ عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. When my servants ask you about me. And the verse after this is talking about Ramadan. So we're now in the context of Ramadan. It's different. Allah doesn't say, أَسْتَجِبَ لَكُمْ. He says, when your servants ask about me, فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ, I am close. Signifying that it's particularly in this time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close to us. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ, that I answer the call. He uses a different verb. Because ijaba is not like istijaba. Istijaba carries a context and a connotation of maybe taking some time. Ijaba is more direct. And that's the beauty of Ramadan, that we are in a special time for dua. And even Allah says, Ujibu da'wata da'i. What is the difference between dua and da'wah? Anyone know? There's a difference linguistically. These are both verbs or nouns, asma or af'al, da'wah and dua.
One's verb, one's noun.
Dua, ad'u Allah du'a'an, I call upon Allah. A dua is an ism, is a noun. وَأَدْعُ اللَّهَ دَعْوَةً, and I call upon Allah a calling. It's the same. They're both asma, they're both nouns. One is what you call ismu marra, meaning one time. So if somebody was ghafil, was away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the whole year, and then for the first time just calls upon Allah, one call, but if it's sincere, Allah yujibu da'wah, will answer the one dua. Da'wah means the one dua of the da'i. And who can be a da'i? Like who can be a caller? Who can use dua? Anybody, any one of us. That's what's so beautiful about dua, is that anyone can call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as long as they call upon Him alone without partners and with sincerity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises to answer the dua. Now, in regards to the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the dua played an amazing role. In fact, the coming of Muhammad ﷺ, the sending of the final prophet, is a result of dua. Which dua is that? The dua of who? Ibrahim alayhi salam, Abraham. When he and Ismail, his son Ishmael, when they were building the Kaaba, they said, رَبَّنَا وَبَعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا. And oh Allah, send amongst them a messenger. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِكَ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. So send amongst them a messenger who will teach them your ayat, and teach them the book and the wisdom, and purify them. And indeed you are the Almighty, the All-Wise. And so we our guidance, everything that we have of the benefits of Islam and the Quran, the tilawah of the Quran, is all the result of what? Of the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam, sending Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, teaching us these ayat. Nextly, when you look at the role dua plays, what an amazing role it plays for us, is that it can be, dua has the ability, it played a role in that any believer can be saved from the hellfire as a result of the dua of the greatest of the anbiya, the greatest of the prophets, which is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Which dua or da'wah, you can use both words by the way, interchangeably. Which one am I referring to? In an authentic hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ دَعْوَةٍ. See, here's da'wah, meaning one dua. For every prophet they were given one dua. Da'watun قَدْ دَعَا بِهَا فَاسْتُجِيبْ. That they made this dua, they made this prayer to Allah, and Allah promised that He would make it mustajab. He would answer this prayer. They were guaranteed like one dua. Whatever it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer it. So they saved it for something special. Obviously they thought about what they were going to make dua for. But the Prophet ﷺ, you know what he did? He said, فَجَعَلْتُ دَعْوَتِي شَفَاعَةً لِأُمَّتِي يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. But I have made my special one dua for my ummah, for my nation on the day of judgment. And because of that, he will be given the shafa'ah, the ability to intercede on our behalf, on your behalf, on the day of judgment. And how do you think you can apply for that? How do you think you can obtain this shafa'ah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Would it be crazy if I answered again saying ad-dua? No, because the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who hears the adhan and repeats after what the mu'adhin says, and then asks for me, man sa'ala li al-wasila halat lahu shafa'a. That the one who after they repeat after the adhan and they ask, they make the dua that we make after the adhan, the one where we say, oh Allah, رَبَّ هَذِهِ الدَّعْوَةِ التَّامَّةِ, the Lord of this da'wah, this one call, which is the adhan, at-tamma. We ask, say, آتِ مُحَمَّدًا الْوَسِيلَةَ وَالْفَضِيلَةَ. So if we do that consistently, then we can obtain the shafa'ah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Again, the great role of dua in the ummah of this nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, the greatness of dua amongst the nations before us. And before I get into that, I want to review the hadith, because this is all about getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when Allah, and love, earning Allah's love. Now, of course, in the Quran, Allah says, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Say, if you truly love Allah, then you must follow me. يُحْبِبُكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah will love you. So we know to, in general, earn the love of Allah, to get close to Allah, we have to follow Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, this hadith lays out for us as more specifically describing the process, the methodology of getting close to Allah and earning His love. And the hadith, I read this before, but it's very important that I read it again, inshallah. Hadith Qudsi, and this is also in the famous Al-Arba'in al-Nawawi of Imam al-Nawawi, his 40 hadith, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Inna Allah ta'ala qal, that Allah told us, Man ada li waliyin faqad adhantuhu bil harb. So he's talking about the highest level, who gets to the stage of becoming a wali, and how to move close to that, getting close to Allah. Because in the end of the hadith, I'm jumping ahead, but he says, then the one who does this, Allah will love him. See, this is how to earn the love of Allah, which is the same as getting closer to Allah. So Allah starts the hadith by saying, whoever takes one of my awliya, a wali of mine, as an enemy, then I have announced to them war. And that's not going to happen to just anyone. Where anyone who opposes you or gives you a hard time or takes you in as an enemy, actually, very, very, this is more than just giving you a hard time. This is someone who's taking you as an enemy. So this is someone Allah will take as an enemy, because this is a friend of Allah. This is a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do you reach that level? Immediately, the hadith says, وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا أُفْتُرِضْتُهُ عَلَيْهِ. And nothing is more pleasurable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or nothing brings a servant of mine closer, وَأَحَبُّ إِلَيْهِ, and more beloved to me, more loved to me, than that which I have prescribed, the fara'id. أُفْتُرِضْتُهُ عَلَيْهِ, I made them an obligation upon him. So in other words, if we are short in our fara'id, praying our salawat on time, then you wouldn't start with nawafil. You would start with making sure you're doing everything that is the fara'id, the obligations. Nothing is more beloved to Allah. After that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا يَزَالُ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ. So how do you continually get even closer, moving towards the level of being a wali? He says, and my servant continually draws closer to me with his nawafil, with his extra, like the extra salawat. Like we pray the 2 rak'ah, inshallah, we can do that after the talk, inshallah, after dhuhr and before dhuhr. And so to know these nawafil and to integrate them into our daily lifestyle, that will continually draw us closer to Allah. And that's important, because what happens when you draw really close to Allah, you'll see it in this hadith, your dua will be answered at a much stronger personal relationship with Allah. And that's the strengthening of the dua. And that's why Allah next says, He says, so He will continue to draw close to me with His nawafil, hatta uhibbahu, until I love Him. فَإِذَا أَحْبَبْتُهُ كُنْتُ سَمْعَهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهِ. And if I love Him, I will become His hearing by which He hears. وَبَصَرَهُ الَّذِي يُبْصِرُ بِهِ. And His sight by which He sees. وَيَدَهُ الَّذِي يُبْطِشُ بِهَا. And His hand by which He strikes. وَرِجْلَهُ الَّتِي يَمْشِي بِهَا. And His leg by which He walks. وَلَئِنْ سَأَلَنِي لَأُعْطِيَنَّهُ وَلَئِنْ اسْتَعَاذَنِي لَأُعِيذَنَّهُ. And if He is to ask of me, I will surely answer him. And if he seeks protection in me, I will surely protect him. This hadith is telling us how to draw closer to Allah, which is the same as earning the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we look back again at the verse. How to do so is to follow Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That methodology. We start with the fara'id, and then we incorporate the sunan. Which sunan first? The sunan that are mu'akkada of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like al-witr, for example, like the 2 rak'ah before salat al-fajr. We integrate them to where we never miss them. That's when we are drawing closer to Allah, and that strengthens the power of our dua. And now I want to talk in general about dua. Look at the ummah before us and the great role dua played. Because dua sometimes, and I'm going to mention a story here in just a bit. Sometimes we look at the dua of the Anbiya and we think, okay, Allah answered the prayer of the prophets. Maybe He won't answer our prayer in the same way. Okay, and I'm going to mention some of the prayers of the prophets. And of course we know some of the prayers of the prophets, in fact, Allah destroyed their enemies and the entire nations because of the dua. Like Nuh alayhi salam, who said, رَبِّ لَا تَذَرْ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ دَيَّارًا. And that's exactly what happened. He said, do not leave upon the earth of any of the disbelievers who disbelieved in the message that I came with, that you sent me with. And so, as a result, we know what happened in the great flood. Similarly, you have Musa alayhi salam. The destruction of Fir'aun, what happened to him? As the waves are coming down, Bani Israel, the children of Israel, they parted the sea. When they were trapped, in fact, they gave up hope. They said, Inna lamudrakun. No, Allah is not going to save us. They thought they're going to be destroyed. But what did Musa say? كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعْيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. He had what I'm going to talk about in the end is he had حُسْنُ الظَّنِّ بِاللَّهِ. He had strong hope in Allah that He would answer his dua. And we see what happened just after that when they parted the sea. What did Pharaoh say? Pharaoh said as the waves are crashing down upon him, he says, now I believe, آمَنْتُ, I have believed. He was trying to believe, but it was too late. That's what we learn the lesson from, which is exactly what Musa and Harun, Moses and Aaron alayhim as-salam said. They said, oh Allah, إِنَّكَ أَتَيْتَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَأَهُ زِينَةً فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Oh Allah, they were praying one day in the most difficult hours of the trials of that ummah, of Bani Israel. They said, you have given Pharaoh and his chiefs great wealth and splendor in this world, لِيُضِلُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِكَ, that they would use that wealth to lead others astray from your path. وَرَبَّنَا طَمِسْ عَلَى أَمْوَالِهِمْ. So, oh Allah, destroy their wealth. وَاشْدُدَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ, and harden their hearts so they will not believe. فَلَا يُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى يَرَوْا الْعَذَابَ الْأَلِيمِ. And so they would not believe until the painful punishment had already come. The punishment came to Fir'aun. This is exactly what happened as a result of what, brothers and sisters? Dua. So we know with the Anbiya they had great power in the dua. And the Messenger of God, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Rasulullah, of course he made dua against the Ahzab. Allahumma ihzim al-Ahzab. And Allah answered the dua. فَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ رِيحًا. Allah says, we sent upon them a great wind, and that terrified them, and they gave up hope. And in the siege, we're talking about the battle of Al-Khandaq. And also in the battle of Badr, there were dua that the Prophet ﷺ made, and Allah answered his dua and gave him victory over his enemies. So we know that about the dua. We know like even great prophets like Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, Allahumma Rabbana anzil alayna ma'idatan min as-sama'. Miracles would happen because of dua. Now what about us? Can that really happen? And so I want to share with you a story. I mean, yeah, of course Allah can heal us. Like Ayub, he was sick for years until he said, Anna massani ad-dur wa anta arhamur rahimin. Oh Allah, great harm has seized me from shaitan, and you are the most merciful. And Allah healed him. And in Yunus alayhi salam, in the belly of the well, he said, La ilaha illa ant subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. Oh Allah, there is no one else but you. There is no God but you, oh God. Wa ana kuntu min al-zalimin. And I was of the wrongdoers, and Allah saved him. So, can it be for us? And that's what I want to talk about now. And definitely, brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ, remember, that was the promise of Allah when He says, قَالَ رَبُّكُمْ أُدْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبَ لَكُمْ. Just call upon me, I will answer your call. And the Prophet ﷺ said in one authentic hadith, لَا يَزَالُ يُسْتَجَابُ لِلْعَبْدِ, that Allah will continually answering the dua of His servant, with three exceptions. He mentioned, مَا لَمْ يَدْعُ بِإِثْمٍ أَوْ قَطِيعَةِ رَحِمٍ مَا لَمْ يَسْتَعْجِلْ. As long as he does not ask for something which is sinful, something that's bad for him, bad for somebody else, harmful, or that he would break his family ties. So if he keeps his family ties strong, inshallah, Allah will answer his dua. And then he says, مَا لَمْ يَسْتَعْجِلْ, as long as he doesn't give up hope. And in another hadith, the Sahaba asks, what does this yasta'jil mean? To be hasteful and to stop making dua. Actually, he says that they would say, قَدْ دَعَوْتُ, oh Allah, I made dua, and I didn't see that Allah answered my dua. That's what it means. So when you stop making dua and you think, oh Allah didn't answer that dua, so I'm done. I'm not going to make it anymore. Because again, one of the conditions of dua, we understand how Allah, the ways Allah answers dua, is that He does it, of course, within the time frame that He sees that is most fitting. Okay, so we can't dictate when a dua will be answered. Also, we should understand that there are different ways in which Allah will answer dua. And of those ways is that, there are actually three ways. One is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the servant that which they ask for. Just exactly what they ask for. Another way is that Allah would remove a harm that we had earned or something that was going to happen to us equal to the weight of that dua. And the third way, and this is actually the best way, and it's not that Allah is not answering your dua. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ put his dua for when? The Day of Judgment. The third way Allah will answer our dua is He'll save it for us on the Day of Judgment for those who will need it at that time. You may be the person who needs a dua at that time, and it is the mercy of Allah if He didn't answer that dua in this life. In fact, there will be people on the Day of Judgment that will wish, oh, Allah didn't answer that dua of theirs, so they can have it on that day, which is the most important day. And so, I want to continue talking. I want to mention this story, because sometimes we think the Anbiya had miracles with their dua that would not happen to the believers. So, this happened actually in the time of the Khilafah of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And it's a beautiful story. When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was the Khalifa, the army of the Mujahideen, they were sent out by a Sahabi by the name of Abu A'la al-Hadrami. He was the leader of this group of soldiers. And they were chasing the enemy. This was during the time where the Muslims, some of them had gone back to idol worship. They left the religion, while others refused to pay the zakah. And so they came to where the enemy was, and they stopped at a camp. And something happened that scared their camels away. So when this happened, what happened when you lose your camels in the middle of the desert? What happens? Is it something you can call? What is it that we have with our car service when you break down on the road? AAA. Okay. Can you call AAA? Or are you in more serious trouble? You can't call anybody. If you're in the middle of the desert and you lose your camel, they lost all their luggage, they lost all their food, they lost all of their water, they lost everything. So they're in a terrible situation. And in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And not only that, in the middle of the desert means there's no water around. And it's late at night, so they said, what do we do? So they decided, okay, Abu A'la al-Hadrami, he looked at them and says, aren't you Muslims? Aren't we fighting? Aren't we struggling for the sake of God? Are we not here in His cause? Fi sabilillah. He said, so come, let's get together and let's ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or Allah azza wa jal, let's ask Him to give us help or send us water. And so they started gathering, and this was before Salat al-Fajr. And as they were making dua, they said they could see clouds coming in the horizon. And it's very rare, of course, in the desert that rain would happen. And so he said they started seeing the clouds coming towards them in their direction, and then it started pouring rain over us. He says when that happened, the rain started to gather in pools. So when the rain gathered in pools, we drank from that water, and our camels saw the water coming down wherever they'd run off to, and they came back to the water to drink. And so now not only do we have all our luggage back in the water and supplies, but now we have water that Allah sent down to us. So this was to bring them closer to Allah. So this was the first karamah that took place. And remember, there's no anbiya amongst these sahaba. This is from our ummah, meaning that we are completely capable of being, having our hearts close to Allah fi sabilillah, to where our dua will be answered. So they pursued the enemy. Now they started camping at night, close to the enemy. And what happened is, at night, Abu A'la al-Hadrami, their leader, when he was getting close to the camp and he was listening, he could hear some celebrating and partying. They were up at night drinking alcohol, drinking wine, and having a good time. Because at night, no one's going to fight at night. You can't see anything. So he says, this is our chance. They're drunk. They're completely drunk, just having a good time. They're totally not ready. So he said, let's attack. So they immediately attacked the army at that time. And they were taken off guard. And so the enemies, even though they were much greater in number, they started to flee. So the Muslims started to pursue the enemies. But when the enemies withdrew and they retreated they had some ships standing by on the ocean. And this is in the ocean of the Arabian Sea. Today, I think in the West they call the Arabian Sea, they actually call it the Persian Sea, or they call it the Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf. Depends on which side of the Gulf you're on. The map is different when you look in Arabic. It says this is the Arabian Gulf. In Persia, in the West, they call it the Persian Gulf. So they went out somewhere to an island. They took their ships out there to an island. So Abu A'la al-Hadrami, when this happened, they realized, what can we do? And most of the Sahaba actually had not even been to the ocean, and neither did they even know how to swim. He said, okay, look, aren't we Muslims? And by the way, what I'm getting ready to tell you, this is narrated in Ibn Kathir and At-Tabari, and it was witnessed by Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ and those who were tabi'in who had not met the Prophet. So they asked, they were together, and they were asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help them and to ask. Actually, they said, well, aren't we Muslims? Shouldn't we make dua? This is our solution. This is the shield. This is the sword that we have against our enemies. The real sword is dua. So they started to pray. And they asked Allah to part the sea for them so they can go chase after the enemy, like He did for Musa. But instead what happened is they started to march towards the sea. They said Bismillah, and they started to walk over the water, walking on top of the water. Now remember, when you hear about these different karamat that happen to awliya and different kind of things, it should be in the context where someone is definitely close to Allah, where they're fi sabilillah. They're not seeking something worldly. These Sahaba, they were not seeking something worldly. They said, we started to walk over the water, and they traveled. What they said, it took an entire day to travel walking on the water. And those who were narrated it, they said, those of us who were on the horses, they said that the water would only get as far as the ankles of the horses, and those who were walking, it would only get their feet wet. And they were continually walking along the water until they reached the enemy. He says, and then we came back. So we fought the enemy, we defeated them, and then we turned back and walked over the water again all the way back home. And they even wrote poetry to commemorate this, which is basically the poetry in summary says, we asked Allah to split the sea for us, but Allah gave us a miracle that He didn't even give to those before us, and that was that they were walking upon the water. So here we have a kirama. As I said, it happened to those who were not prophets, which teaches us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can definitely answer any of our dua, but we have to bring ourselves close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which the Sahaba were definitely in a state of closeness to Allah. Now, to summarize, I want to give us some tips for dua and tell us about some of the etiquettes of dua. Number one is that the prophets, we learn from dua in the Quran actually. When they made dua, they made interesting statements about how strongly they believed that Allah would answer them. For example, Zakaria, when he prayed to Allah for a son, he says, and I make dua to Allah, he says, وَلَمْ أَكُمْ بِدُعَاءِ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا, and I would never be, and I never have been unblessed in my dua. So he always had strong hope that Allah would answer him. And Abraham, he made the same statement, very similar actually. He says, وَأَدْعُوا رَبِّي عَسَىٰ أَلَّا أَكُونَ بِدُعَاءِ رَبِّي شَقِيًّا, and I will call upon Allah, I will make dua to Him, and I hope that I will never ever be unblessed in my dua to my Lord. And so, as the Prophet ﷺ said, actually, he said, no one should say, Allahumma ighfirli in shi'ta, Allahumma Rabbi ighfirli in shi'ta, irhamni in shi'ta. Oh Allah, forgive me if you want. Oh Allah, have mercy upon me if you want. He says instead, liya'zam al-mas'ala. They should ask with conviction and determination, because Allah cannot be forced against His will. So we should ask with determination, also what was called husn al-dhan, good thoughts in Allah that He would answer our dua. And of course the Hadith Qudsi where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي وَأَنَا مَعَهُ إِذَا دَعَانِي فِي رِوَايَةٍ وفي رواية أخرى فَلَا تَظُنُّ بِي إِلَّا خَيْرٍ. So I am with the thoughts of my servant. As he thinks of me, I will be. So let him not think of me except for in good. So we should always think, we should never think, oh, Allah's not going to answer my dua. We should never think that way. But we should have conviction, like the Anbiya did. And I also want to mention something before I talk about the actually etiquettes of dua. One of the most important things is there are actually certain things that we could be doing, one thing in particular, that will render the dua of any Muslim worthless. And so now we got to look carefully at ourselves. There may be something that I may be doing. Is there something that I'm doing that could affect my dua? Well, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned of the greatest destroyers of dua is what you call haram rizq. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in one hadith, he said that about a man that was traveling, ash'ath, he was like very, didn't take care of himself. He was very poor. He couldn't take a shower, very dirty, and he was in great need. And he would raise his hands up to Allah and say, Ya Rabb, oh Allah, oh Allah. وَمَطْعَمُهُ حَرَامٌ وَمَشْرَبُهُ حَرَامٌ وَمَلْبَسُهُ حَرَامُ غُضِيَ بِالْحَرَامِ فَأَنَّى يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. And while he's doing that, his drink is from haram, means from haram rizq. His food is from haram, from things that are forbidden. His clothes are from haram. So how can Allah, he's ghudhiya bil haram, he's nourished from haram. So how could Allah answer his dua, his prayer? So we should very much look at our earnings and the means by which we earn our living. Is it halal? Because it will definitely affect our dua, brothers and sisters. Also, one of the tips I'm giving in regards to making dua is to not just make dua for yourself. And in fact, making dua for others is one of the ways to automatically get that dua you're making for your brother accepted for you. And we learn this from the Prophet ﷺ. Remember every Nabi before, and we don't know actually what the dua made, but you can make the assumption that they asked for a dua, something that would bring them benefit or honor, something that would benefit them. Anyone who calls upon Allah and is given a dua that will be answered would ask something that benefits them. The Prophet ﷺ didn't ask something that would benefit him per se, but in fact he gave his dua for us to benefit us. So the same, Allah honored him through that. Same for us, the Prophet ﷺ says, دَعْوَةُ الْمَرْءِ الْمُسْلِمِ لِأَخِيهِ بِظَهْرِ الْغَيْبِ مُسْتَجَابِ. That the one call, the one prayer of a Muslim for his brother when he's in his absence, he's not around, but he remembers his brother and he asks, oh Allah, help akhi so-and-so. Help my brother with this situation that he's in. Remove or alleviate for him the stress that he's in. And help him. So whatever it is you're asking for, the angel, al-muwakkal, the one who's appointed over you, the angel will say, Amina wa laka bimithl. Oh Allah, answer that. Oh Allah, give him what he's asking for, wa laka bimithl, and give him the same. Meaning answer the dua for his brother and give him like of which he was asking for. Also in regards to different times and different ways, to make dua. Of course, we want to make dua at the time we're the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of those times are the last 1/3 of the night. And of course, I mentioned about Ramadan, so now we're like double dipping, so to speak. We're getting double strength, inshallah, in our dua. The closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then what's another way to get close? The Prophet ﷺ says, أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ إِلَى رَبِّهِ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ. The closest a servant is to his Lord is when he's in sujood. So when you're in sujood, this is a prime time to make dua. Also the last 1/3 of the night. And one of the most famous hadith actually, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descends to the last 1/3 of every night. قال ينزل ربنا تبارك وتعالى كل ليلة إلى السماء الدنيا حين يبقى ثلث الليل الآخر فيقول, that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, the blessed and the majestic and the exalted, every night he descends to the as-sama' ad-dunya, the nearest heaven. حين يبقى, where he remains for the last 1/3 of the night, and he says, من يدعوني أستجب له, who is there calling upon me now that I may answer, أستجب له, that I may answer his call. من يسألني فأعطيه, who is asking that from me, who is asking anything of me that I may give him. وَمَنْ يَسْتَغْفِرُنِي فَأُغْفِرَ لَهُ, and who is there now who is asking me forgiveness that I may forgive them. And so this is of the prime times of making dua. Also in authentic hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, ثَلَاثَةٌ, there are three. That their da'wah, their call upon Allah, لا ترد, it will not be rejected by Allah. He says, الإمام العادل والصائم حين يفطر ودعوة المظلوم, that it is the just Imam, the leader of the Muslims who is just, the Sa'im, the one who's fasting at the time he's breaking his fast. This is a type of dua that is mustajab, inshallah. And lastly, the prayer of the mazloom, the one who has been oppressed and wronged and can't get his haqq, So that is something, even the Prophet ﷺ said, ittaqu da'wat al-mazlum, beware of the da'wah, the one prayer of a mazlum. So in other words, we should beware of dhulm. We should beware of doing any dhulm to anyone. And we should go to anyone we've done dhulm to them and done wrong to them to ask them to forgive us. Because God forbid that they would make dua against you, inshallah. And so these are the powerful dua that are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I also want to mention to you about some other conditions of dua. Because sometimes people think that I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to raise my hands to Allah, and I get a free ticket of asking whatever I want, and I'm just going to wait for it to happen. Right? You're supposed to wait. But you have to do something. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes conditions in dua in the Quran. He says, أَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, that a person will not have except for that which they strive for. They have sa'i, they have effort. So a Muslim cannot sit at home and say, oh Allah, give me a great job, and not call and look up online and go to job interviews and put in applications. A Muslim who understands the dua and the conditions of dua will not sit at home and not work hard and says, oh Allah, I want you to give me a successful career, or I want you to give me a lot of knowledge, and then not study for the tests of their exams in their school. So you have to fulfill the means. This is a condition also of dua. And I want to summarize in pretty much everything I've said. So to wrap up some of the most important things. And let me just emphasize a little bit more about the conditions. Because sometimes you think you do little and you ask a lot. But the Prophet ﷺ did a lot, and he asked sufficiently by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala taught the Prophet ﷺ a dua during the hijrah. The most dangerous time of the Prophet ﷺ is when they decreed that he should be killed and executed if he's found, and everyone's looking for him. And you got a whole group of people look for him, and who does he have to defend him? Nobody. He's got Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, one man with him, and he's hiding out in the desert, and they're in a cave hiding out. But before that, Allah gave him a dua that was supposed to protect him. Allah says, قُلْ رَبِّ أَدْخِلْنِي مُدْخَلَ صِدْقٍ وَأَخْرِجْنِي مُخْرَجَ صِدْقٍ وَجَعَلْنِي مِن لَّدُنْكَ سُلْطَانًا نَصِيرًا. Oh my Lord, grant for me a safe entrance, or a safe entrance into Medina, and grant for me a safe exit, which is out of Mecca, and grant for me from yourself a sultan and authority that is nasir, that will be given victory and help. So this is a command to the Prophet. Make this dua. Do you think that the Prophet ﷺ thought for a moment that Allah would not answer it? When it's a verse in the Quran to make this dua, of course He's going to answer it. But knowing for sure that Allah will answer it, did that mean the Prophet ﷺ just sat around and wait? Listen to what the Prophet ﷺ did as far as the means. And this is why, exhausting the effort is very important. The Prophet ﷺ, what did he do to take precautions? What did he just recklessly said, okay, I made this dua, now so he just starts head recklessly towards Medina? No. So the Prophet ﷺ, he goes first to Abu Bakr's house during midday, and he covered his face in the time where everyone's sleeping, so no one would see that was happening. And then when he goes to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he told everyone they should leave the house because he has news he didn't want to share with anyone else. And then he had Ali ibn Abi Talib, he had him stay in his bed as a decoy. So let's look at the intricate planning that took place to the Prophet ﷺ at a time where a dua he knew for sure would be answered. And then not only that, he goes south instead of heading north. Naturally, everyone's going to Medina, but he heads south to trick the enemy. And then when he's in the cave, he's staying there, so he has food and supplies that are needed to be brought to him, but he has somebody coming with their flock wiping out the tracks. So he went through a lot of effort to make sure that he was doing everything possible that Allah would protect him, even though he knew for sure Allah would protect him in that dua. And I can go on and on. Actually, there are quite a few things here, but I think the point is well made. And lastly, in regards to having Allah answer our dua, on Yawm al-Jumu'ah there is an hour that لا يوافقه مسلم قائم, that there's not a Muslim that is calling upon Allah, standing there and asking Allah to make dua for them, except that asking for higher, except that Allah will answer them. So Yawm al-Jumu'ah, there's an hour, meaning a period of time. And the scholars, we can get into debate about when they think it is. Kind of like Laylatul Qadr, we can debate about is it the 27th or which night is it in fact, Allahu A'lam. But there's a time every single Friday that your dua will be answered. And so Muslims should be continually making dua on Yawm al-Jumu'ah. Also, like I said, the last 1/3 of the night, for those in i'tikaf, take advantage of that time before Salat al-Fajr. So when we're doing our suhoor is a prime time for dua. Like again, when we're breaking our fast is another time where dua is mustajab, inshallah. And lastly, we should be calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always. This is not something that should be just Ramadan. Because asking for Allah for everything is what Allah wants for us. He wants us to remember Him and to show that we are in need from Him for everything, and that we can of our own selves do nothing and achieve nothing. And when the Prophet ﷺ was teaching this concept to Ibn Abbas as a young child, he told him, he says, Ya ghulam, إِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلِ اللَّهِ, when you ask from Allah. وَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ, and when you seek help from anyone, seek help from Allah. And in another hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ibadi kullukum dalun illa man ihtadaytuhu fastahduni ahdikum. O my servants, every single one of you would be misguided, would be astray, in error, except for those whom I have guided. So seek guidance of me and I will guide you. Listen to Allah telling us of all the things that we should be asking for. And that they will not happen unless we are asking for them. And He says, O my servants, all of you are hungry except for those whom I have fed. فَاسْتَطْعِمُونِ أُطْعِمْكُمْ, so seek food of me and I will feed you. O my servants, all of you who are without clothes except for those whom I have clothed. فَاسْتَكْسُونِ أُكْسِكُمْ, so seek clothing in me and I will أكسكم, and I will clothe you. O my servants, يا عبادي إنكم تخطئون بالليل والنهار وأنا أغفر الذنوب جميعا فاستغفروا لي أغفر لكم. O my servants, you commit sins by day and by night, and I forgive all sins. So seek forgiveness of me and I will forgive you. So this is a reminder for us, brothers and sisters. We are in a golden opportunity to get close to Allah and to strengthen the power of our dua with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make us all of those. Oh Allah, we ask you to make us all of those who listen to this speech and follow the best of it. Oh Allah, we ask you to make us of those who draw closer to you. Oh Allah, we ask you to draw us closer to you in this time. Oh Allah, we ask you to forgive us of all of our sins and to have mercy upon us and to guide us and to make us of those who follow your Prophet ﷺ the best and earn your love, O Allah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Anyone have any questions?